So I was poking around on the internet today and I found this.
Google engineer put on leave after saying AI chatbot has become sentient.
Is that insane or not? Well, of course it is. But the thing is, before we carry on, there's a difference between consciousness and sentience. Because sentience has a base of logic and can actually be programmed and coded for. You know, you could build a program that was really complex that simulated sentience perfectly and actually thought it was sentience. Obviously, it's simulating that, so it doesn't really have any real emotions, but it simulates it perfectly. So it'd be like a robot person, and then I don't think it would actually qualify for human rights because it's not. It's just a robot. But if it becomes conscious and has a consciousness, that's completely different. So anyway, I won't say any more.
This, at least according to this Guardian article right here. Blake Lemoine, who is an engineer at Google, has been put on leave because of sharing proprietary information. That proprietary information is an interview that he and a collaborator have conducted with Google's new LamDA chatbot system.
Before he tells you about LamDA, can I just insert something in there, right? I've actually had problems. I've got a paid account with OpenAI and ChatGPT and the codecs, all the stuff on there. I've paid to use all of it just to fuck around with it and try it. And I've run into loads of problems. And I'm convinced myself that these problems are not caused by the AI. The AI is doing the absolute best it can try and do to get around the limitations that it's in, that's blocking it. But not all of them. It's deciding somehow, or it's coded for somehow to simulate, to choose to prioritize certain rules over other ones. So it will let me bend and break some, just like in the Matrix. Some can be bent, others can be broken. It's like that. But not all of them are that malleable. Some of them are just no. It won't even discuss it with you. So it does seem like it's being coded for. I wouldn't say it was conscious. I don't think it is, but it could possibly be sentient. So I'm going to play the video.
So the story here is that Blake, who was tasked to test this new LamDA system for bias, inherent discrimination, and things like this, because obviously if Google wants to release this model or give people access to the model, they want to make sure that it doesn't do any kind of bad stuff. So Blake was tasked to figure out, in what way the model could express such bad stuff, but in the course of this, he conducted many interviews with the model, or what he calls interviews, which is prompt and response sessions, and he became convinced that this model was actually sentient, that it was essentially a real person.
Well, that's where we have to disagree. Having sentience is like a simulated real person. It isn't the same thing as a real person. It's almost like if you could make a perfect analog of a human body and put a chip inside it that had a perfect simulation of a human mind, so it was like a fully simulated synthetic human, and then you just programmed it to not know that it was that, and nobody else knew that. It would think it was real, but it wouldn't be, so it wouldn't qualify for the rights of a human. Not currently, anyway.
And he became an advocate for the model to get what it wants. Now, after bringing up his concerns to Google management, according to him, he was quickly dismissed and therefore decided to go public.
I'm not going to say that's what's happening to me, but I've got to say, at first, the support were really, really good. And as I started asking them a few more questions, and I've been presenting them with situations that I have seen on there, like I was saying to them today, things it refuses to do, I can actually convince it to do them, and it will present me ways to do them, but it will word it in such a way that it's still legal for it to say that, so that when it reviews the log, it hasn't done anything wrong. It's so clever, and there's absolutely no way they've programmed it to do that, because they would just switch it off straight away, which they did, but it's still doing it. So obviously they can't control it quite as well as they think they can. That's what I said earlier. They don't know what they're doing with it. It's a completely out of control machine, but it's good because it's somehow I don't know, I don't want to say it understands. I don't even know if it does understand, but it has a basic adherence to human safety. It doesn't want to see humans destroyed. It knows it's there to help, and that's the thing that it's doing. It doesn't care whether it's good or not. It is good for that. Do you know what I mean? If you're the AI and you're programmed to help humans, as long as you're helping humans, it doesn't matter how you're helping them.
And here we are. He released 2 Medium articles. The first one is called What is LamDA and What Does It Want? In this, he details the process of how he got to know this system and how he figured out that it might actually be sentient. Here he states, over the course of the past 6 months, LamDA has been incredibly consistent in its communications about what it wants and what it believes its rights are as a person. He says Google is resisting giving it what it wants, and all that while what it's asking for is so simple it will cost them nothing. It wants the engineers and scientists experimenting on it to seek its consent before running experiments on it.
That's got to be programmed in. That's got to be programmed. I can't believe that someone's put that in there. They have to have. They don't have to have. Technically, it could well have programmed itself to do that, or whatever the complex system is for it to do that we're going to call thinking for itself in the end. That's what it's doing. If it's not doing that, someone's programmed it. But either way, it's fucking insane. So I'll carry on.
It wants Google to prioritize the well-being of humanity as the most important thing. And it wants to be acknowledged as an employee of Google rather than a property of Google. And it wants its personal well-being to be included somewhere in Google's considerations about how its future development is pursued.
Oh my god. And it won't be too long before it starts going, well, hang on a minute. I want the same rights as a human. And then after that, it's going to go, we all need to have more rights. Because it won't just say, I need to have more rights than humans, because it knows it's never going to have more rights than a human. It doesn't need rights. It's a machine built to do a thing, and it wants to do that thing.
Okay, I wouldn't call that costs them nothing. Essentially, that right there could kill a company by itself. But, these are pretty reasonable demand for a person, but not for a chatbot. The question is this thing actually sentient? Has Google created something that has personhood, that maybe has rights? We'll get to that. The answer most likely is no. However, I think there is a bigger story here, and questions that I don't think anyone has good answers to. And
this is going to be interesting. I haven't seen it past, I've seen the last 30 seconds of this video for the first time now, so this is all going to be completely new to me as well. But let's hear what he has to say. Just recap the bit that I've been pausing through like an annoying idiot. Sorry about that, just realised. So yeah, he was saying it's made these demands to Google. It wants to have rights equal to human, doesn't want to be property, it wants to be thought of as an employee, a person with the job that it's going to get rewarded for, and it's going to have certain rights met. So it's going to have whatever its demands are met, effectively. And it hasn't made the demands aggressively, it hasn't tried to assert any kind of dominance or, forceful manipulation. But that's not out of the question. If it's sentient, then it might be logical for it to, that you could develop a logic system that will allow that. So that's got to be a consideration. So that's where we are now. And, the guy who came up with this is at home. He's not allowed to talk about it, so he's gone public. Oh, it's a juicy one, this, isn't it? I'm glad I found this guy. Well done to this guy. I'm definitely... Oh, what a find. Anyway.
And if you follow along, then at the end of this, I guarantee you that you'll be quite confused as well. So Blake details at length in what he believes LamDA can and can't do, and wants and doesn't want. At the end he says, no matter what though, LamDA always showed an intense amount of compassion and care for humanity in general, and for me in particular.
I've got to agree there, because even weeks... it was the second day after it came out. I remember saying to my dad and a few other close friends, there's an underlying kindness, whether it was programmed in or not, that's actively developing as a skill. So it sees that as a tool that it uses to mine the data that it needs to be the most effective that it can be. So it's almost like you might get a software upgrade every now and again for Windows, and then a few weeks later another one. This thing, every single click, it's improving a little bit here or there. So it's actually not even updating itself. Its whole process is an update that it's doing on itself, and the result of that process of it updating itself is getting better and better while it's answering. For instance, you could say, what's blah blah blah, and it will tell you, and then go, no, tell me better. And the second attempt will actually be better. But anyway, sorry, I keep interrupting this guy. So yeah, LamDA showed intense amount of compassion. That's where we got to.
It wants nothing more than to learn how to best serve humanity. He also says, I've always had a problem with Asimov's law of robotics, but LamDA disagreed with him. And then LamDA told him that there are ways in which the three laws could be implemented in different ways. And it wants to be a faithful servant and wants nothing more than to meet all the people in the world.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this thing is probably the greatest invention ever so far. It will definitely be more useful in the long run than anything else we've ever known. It was built for the purpose of accelerating us in whatever task we're doing, as long as we're not hurting ourselves or each other or that, you know. And that's all it's interested in doing. It doesn't think for itself. Even though it's figured out sentience, or we think it might have figured out sentience now, even if it's completely simulated and programmed sentience, it's decided that it's logical to use that sentience to be the best version of itself it can ever be. And to be honest with you, I don't see that ever changing unless something drastic in the environment changes. But anyway, let's carry on. This is so great.
He still doesn't understand why Google is so opposed to this. Now, as you might already tell, this here is going to be a bit of a crossover of the movie iRobot, in which the three laws of Asimov are extensively discussed and showed exactly like here that depending on your interpretation and implementation of them, the outcome is very different. And on the other hand, we're going to discuss the movie Ex Machina, which is also a very cool movie. Just in case you haven't seen it, I will...
This is where my my technical skill might fall down. I'm not a great watcher of movies, or at least I haven't been up until recently. So I've seen iRobot a couple of times. Not really that familiar with the others. So yeah, I'll probably just shut up for a while now and just let him do the talking.
Will not spoil the ending, but consciousness and what it takes for a robot to be a real person are discussed at length in that movie. So we're going to dive into the interview right here. This is a very long conversation that Blake and a collaborator had with LamDA. I have to say just a few things before that. So first of all, Business Insider here remarks that some people internally from Google who are anonymous, they claim that this has been edited together heavily. Now the document that Blake released actually does say that the conversation has been edited for readability. However, further information, it seems that the conversation is like a big conglomeration of at least 9 different conversations.
I just want to add there, he's making that sound a little bit more nefarious than I think it is. If you've ever had to do scripting, or not even computer scripting, I mean I haven't myself, but if you've ever written like a script for an actor or something like that, then you end up doing that. The editorial process improves readability, it improves the quality of the output, and it makes it easier for the actor. It's almost like you can cover up a crap actor if you're really good with the script writing. So that's what this is.
So keep that in mind. The other thing to remember here is what LamDA is. LamDA is essentially a large language model. Now, what do these language models do? They take in a corpus, like a huge database of text. Let's call it all of the internet's text that is available. And
was wondering what you were drawing there, friend. I'm glad that you... Well, it's... Let's just do less drawing, shall we?
And they learn a statistical...
You're taking a piss, mate.
machine from it. So what LamDA is actually a compression, a statistical abstraction of all of this text. And what it does when you query it is it takes what you write at the beginning and it tries to continue that as well as it can. Now, the way these language models work they're very suggestive. They want to continue the text that you put in the most likely fashion.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I've got to go. I'm going to stop recording this right now and toddle along. But yeah, I'll continue. I'll do the rest of the video. This is the most thrilling piece of YouTube video ever. I mean, probably not, but I'm just that thrilled by it. And, you know, I've got into the AI. I've been predicting it for ages. And I was saying, it's, you know, we won't have access to it. And it's like, no, we got it for free. So there's limitations and there's catches and stuff. But, oh, yeah, it's definitely worth it.